What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Modern Founders Podcast. Today, we are joined by John Sampogna, co-founder and CEO of Wondersauce. John has spent the last 16 years scaling a two-person startup to a team of over 100 people. This conversation isn't just about his company. It's about how early-stage founders can build the system required to actually scale to this level. In this episode, John shares how to use AI to make a small team produce work at a massive scale, and how to unlock your first paying clients from just the contacts you already have in your phone. We also get into how to stop chasing immediate results and instead build a brand that people actually trust over the long term. So if you're an early stage entrepreneur trying to build a foundation that lasts, manage a growing team, or use technology to stay lean, this episode is for you. And one more thing, if you could hit that like and subscribe down below, that would be greatly appreciated. We're coming out with new episodes every Monday, so stay tuned and let's get right into it. Just to start, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about, what you do and what your business is.
Yeah, so I started Wondersauce like 16 years ago, a long time ago. I was like 27 or something at the time. And we're basically a business acceleration agency. We help businesses achieve different scales of growth. We do two things specifically. One is around revenue acceleration. So working with brands to basically like unlock new thresholds. So that usually entails media, content, influencer management, stuff like that to basically do all of their marketing and get them moving in the right direction. And then the other side of our business is on the like digital transformation side, where we work with larger brands to kind of like reshape their digital infrastructure. So like their website, their e-commerce, their applications, sometimes like brand new things that don't exist. So those are like the two sides we play in. And we work across industry and sector, everything from like Fortune 100 businesses to like funded startups. So all over the place.
Interesting. As I was diving deeper into kind of what you're about in your business, I saw that you're more into the building the business side, the brand, and the teams that you're around. So when you look back at the early days of Wondersauce, what was the first idea, customer, or problem you saw in the market that you wanted to fix?
Well, our whole business we're a people business. So we basically work with brands to figure out their marketing and their technology needs. So every challenge that we see is different. And it's really like our job to kind of like assess the situation and figure out how our team could help the brand achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve. In the early days, it's like you're trying to get clients, and the clients are like the lifeblood for your business, because without that, you have no money coming in.
Yeah.
So, in the early days, it was really just around kind of like trying to actually get the clients. So when you found someone that wanted to work with you, it was about doing an incredible job so they would be happy with the service and tell people about you, because we built the business through like word of mouth and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I've heard, as I've talked to more entrepreneurs, word of mouth seems to be one of the biggest ways to grow your business in the early stages.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
It's the best type of marketing, right? When you're working with people and they are happy about your service, it could be anything. It could be like a new restaurant. It could be a gym. It could be whatever, right? If people are inherently pumped about what you're doing and they start telling people through their own kind of talk track, it's the best form of marketing. So for any services business, I always say like the best marketing and business development approach in the early days is to just do a really good job at your work, and people will tell people, and they'll also retain you and give you more projects. Makes
sense. So when you are when you're getting your first customers, are you just kind of taking what comes to you in a sense, or how does that work? How did that work for y'all?
Well, we came from, we had experience working at different agencies in New York. So what we did was we would typically we branched out on our own. We would work our contacts in our network, basically talking through the types of projects we were super confident we can take on and succeed with. And when we found a fit on both sides, we would basically aggressively pursue it and try and make it happen. And when something didn't quite feel like we can deliver, we respectfully pass and try and help them find someone else, because you have to, it's a kind of a fine line. You don't want to be so desperate to find work that you're taking on the wrong work and then hurting your reputation because you're not able to deliver. So it's about finding the right stuff early on and making sure that you're confident in your ability to deliver whatever it is you're selling. So I think it's just about like the right fits early on.
Right. So what are some suggestions you would have to finding the right fit for early stage founders?
Well, it's really like it's as simple as understanding what value that you create in the world, right? And I think too, it's like, it's really good to be just like honest about like the thing that you're super pumped about. Cause I feel like a lot of times people jump into things for the wrong reasons. They jump into things because they think it's like a lucrative industry or a lucrative job, and they do it for the money, which obviously is important. We're working, right? We have to make money. But I think that when you just have confidence in your ability to do something, the way you speak, it feels just way more natural. Like you just end up selling yourself through, your ability to talk fluidly about something. So I think like in the early days, it's good that like you and your team, whoever it is you're working with, you're just honest about the type of stuff that you can get out of bed every day and just crush and deliver, and the things that are like more of a reach. And if things are a reach, but you still think you could do it, and someone's asking you to take it on, I think it's fine to take it on as long as you're transparent. You can say, look, we can knock out like 70% of that stuff. And where I feel like we're a little weak right now is here. And we can help you kind of like get most of the way there. If you don't mind though, I'd like to bring in a freelancer or work with this team who could do the rest, and like make sure you're transparent, you're priced accordingly. And as long as you're kind of like open about that stuff, it's okay to kind of like take on projects that are a little bit more of a reach, at day one, as long as you're not just like deceiving people, I guess.
No, interesting, because I feel like right now we're kind of at a point where early stage entrepreneurs are kind of over promising and under delivering. You know what I mean? They're saying they could do all of this, and then it comes time for the work and it's a whole different avenue. Like they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And that's like the worst thing you can do, right? In terms
and I think it's interesting that you bring up to be transparent, because I feel like also a lot of people aren't being transparent about it. If a client came to me and was like, I want to do this, but I can't really do it, being like, okay, well, I can bring on this team, etc., to kind of help me facilitate that. I think that's another piece that people are kind of missing right now, and I haven't heard a lot about, which is interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a great time to be a small company, because with AI and your ability to seamlessly partner with other companies that might be complementary, your small company could actually be much larger in terms of what you're able to deliver on day one because of all those things at your disposal. So being able to understand your blind spots and then make relationships with people that actually fill that stuff in a really complementary way is an awesome way of just kind of like scaling in the early years without having to take on any overhead or risk.
Right.
Doing it all through partnerships. You can work out deals where it's like, look, we might bring you business and maybe you give us a referral back or a cut of that if we give you business. Or maybe it's not that at all. And it's just like, think of us when you guys need our need and vice versa. And it kind of works itself out. But I think through partnerships, through scaling through AI, I just think there's so much right now you can do as a small business that you couldn't do, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
No, yeah, that's so true. And I've heard, with the kind of the bigger corporations kind of having layoffs, laying off their entry level people and whatnot, it kind of gives an opportunity for the smaller businesses to come in and kind of fill that work that they need to. They still need that work done, right? But they're outsourcing it to other people, which I think is super interesting as well.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. Kind of off the same topic. So you've worked with big brands like Nike and golf.com, crazy big companies. But as you know, every business starts small. What did Wondersauce have to do early on before the bigger brands started taking you seriously? Before that, a quick word from our sponsors. Today's sponsor is my company, Mellow Ad Media. We help businesses show up online without having to do it all themselves. Content creation to social media management, we help turn your ideas, expertise, and brand into consistent content that generates leads and builds trust. So whether you don't know where to start or you simply don't want social media taking over your whole day, my company, Mellow Ad Media, can help you. Check out all of our links in the description. We can help you out. Just hit us up and we'll take it from there.
What did we have to do? I mean, I kind of alluded to it earlier. I mean, the thing is we came from different companies where we already had like a Rolodex of connections and experience working with larger businesses. So we were working with pretty big brands right out the gate. The projects we were doing were smaller, for the brands, but like we were working with like household names out the gate. But I think like an exercise, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but like an exercise we did early on was when we like decided we wanted to do this, we spent a day basically like saying, if we quit our jobs tomorrow and we had 8 hours, 9 hours a day to fill time, who would we reach out to and tell about our company? And we went through our like friends, our family, our first connections, people we used to work with, and we created a list of people that we would be comfortable reaching out, and they like, there's a good chance they'd get back to us. And it was as simple as that. We started that list, and then basically we were like, why do we need to wait until we quit our jobs to do this? Why can't we just start it now and see what it's like? We could have breakfast meetings. We can have like go out after work or meet on the weekends. So we basically just started down that list of reaching out to people. And after like 2 meetings, we had a project. And that was like that was basically like the start of when we were able to quit our jobs and go do this. So I don't think it's really about like the size of the brands you're working with. I think it's as simple as like, what is your realistic path to get anyone to give you a project? And
Right.
who do you know? Who can you speak to? And who would most importantly, like find what you're saying interesting and give you a shot? So you have to know all those things before you actually get going. And if you're not confident in your ability to kind of like convince someone that you're an expert in something, and you don't know people, at least a few people that you can speak to right away, I would say maybe like your idea needs some more work and you need to go a little bit deeper before you launch it, because it shouldn't just be like completely unknown.
Right. So when you first started, was there any difference in the projects you were getting in the beginning as opposed to kind of mid and in the later years?
I mean, sure, like scale and budget and
Of
maybe
course.
the internet evolves. Like we're a marketing firm and we grow with the pace of the internet. So like the projects we were doing 15 years ago look different than they were today just because the world changed. But I mean, like, no, I mean, it was all like, it was the early days of social media with brands back then. So it was like helping brands navigate that. And we're still helping brands navigate that. And yeah, it's a little bit more mature right now and all that stuff. But, we were making apps and websites back then. We're still doing that now. And it's just a different world we're living in, and things are changing in terms of what's harder to do now. But, no, like we've kind of stayed pretty core to like our origins and have just evolved with culture, I guess.
Interesting. So would you say that's kind of that's just what y'all were interested in, and that's kind of the path you just kept wanting to go down? Did you go into your business knowing the path you wanted to have in 5-10 years after?
No. I mean, I don't think we really thought that far ahead. I do think that like the actual work and the services we offered and the value that we brought to the table, those were things that we just imagined building off. I don't think we had like an idea to pivot and go in a completely different direction if it worked. We wanted to kind of build a proper agency and grow it. Like, so from 2 of us to 30 of us to 50 to 60 to 100. So like that was like the goal was to grow it in that lane. I think that like all the things you learn along the way in terms of operating a business, the operations side, the finance side, the legal side, the management side, the personnel side, those are all the things that kind of throw you in different directions, and you have to pivot and ultimately adapt as you actually get hands-on experience running and growing a business.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So kind of a different question. So a lot of early stage entrepreneurs think they need the perfect brand or website to grow. From your experience building digital products and campaigns, what matters most for an early stage company to grow and get its first customers?
You mean you need to have like a proper presence? And that could change. Like not every brand in the world needs like an amazing website or app, or they don't need like the most disruptive content in the world, but you need something to tell your story or no one will know about you. So I would say like first and foremost, your actual product has to be good, right? Like that's table stakes. Like whatever it is you're selling, whether that's you're selling a drink, you're selling a workout class, or you're selling, t-shirts. That core product has to be good, or at least unique enough to get someone's attention. And then I would say like day one, you need to figure out like, what is my best channel for getting customers. And that's going to be, the world has gotten a little smaller in terms of like, yeah, like everyone's going to, maybe it's Instagram and TikTok, maybe it's running some search campaigns, but like you need to understand where your customers are so you can be active there and market there. So if you're trying to attract people that are in their 20s and 30s, yeah, they're on the internet. So where are those places? And you have to basically figure out how to tell your brand or product story in a way that makes sense on those channels. So I think it's really just like kind of working backwards from your customer. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
Start with your customer and then work backwards.
Interesting. So talking about kind of customer research, how do you think is the best way to do customer research?
Customer research can be done in like a very grassroots way. I mean, you could spend money on, on research, and you could spend weeks and days and months accumulating the right type of stuff. But I think right now it's quite easy to basically figure out who your target audience is. I mean, you could first and foremost understand who your competitors are. That's the easiest thing to do. Look at your competitors and figure out who they're marketing towards. And if you're building a business that's entering into that market, you're going to most likely be going after the same customers. So like that's a very simple way of kind of just like figuring that out. And then once you have a general understanding of who the customers are, it's not just about understanding what makes them buy that type of product. It's like what makes them tick across multiple aspects of their life. What else do they like to buy? How do they consume content? What are they into in terms of entertainment and media? What are their favorite channels? Like those are the things that like you'll start to understand where there might be opportunity for your brand to inject into something. But yeah, I think like you don't need to spend a ton of money on research. There's so many tools out there that can kind of get you 70-80% of the way there. And
Right.
you can use your intuition to navigate the rest.
No, that makes sense. Especially with like AI, all it needs is like a ChatGPT prompt, and you pretty much have a pretty good understanding of what you're going to go up against, right?
For sure. I mean, you can use ChatGPT and then you can take whatever it's saying and you can even assume that it's like partially accurate. And then you can basically take whatever it's saying and do your own research, right? Like if it's saying
Right.
these are the brands that matter within the space that you're describing, now go to every one of those brands' websites, their socials, and check them out. See who's following them, and like spend the time doing the research. So all this stuff is free if you want to put in the work.
Right. No, that makes sense. It is like you got to put in the work though for it and have the understanding of how it all kind of pieces together too.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. So, where do you see early stage founders getting their businesses wrong? Is it in their branding and their marketing, or is it in something else?
I mean, it's a mixed bag. You see, I think I mentioned earlier, like doing it for the wrong reason. Um, that's a very classic mistake where people are too focused on the end result of the money, the revenue, and not
Right.
focused on actually like getting the customer and keeping that customer happy. I
Right.
think people hire incorrectly early on. That's like a very typical thing. Um, you know, I remember from our experience, like before you start a company, you and your business partners, you all come with experience and you come with skill sets. And you then have to start figuring out how to do the stuff that no one's trained in on your team. Like for us, at least, like no one had an accounting background, no one had a legal background, no one had all those things, right? So because you're bootstrapping it early on, you figure all that stuff out and you start taking it on. Um, but I think that like sometimes people then, when it comes to hiring, they end up saying like the first thing we need to hire is like a really good creative, but maybe like you were actually the really good creative and you should actually hire someone to do the stuff that you were faking. And you should
Right.
focus on like whatever you were great at building, like you should actually build that great creative team that you should lead. If that was your skill that led you to start the business, your clients want to buy that from you because you're the one who started the business and like you are the creative force of the agency. So maybe like don't deprioritize that, double down on that and find and hire people to take on the stuff you weren't necessarily great at doing.
Right. So, do you think when it comes to building teams, do you think that most people have the misconception of that kind of where they're hiring something that they're already good at and they're not hiring for other things? Or do you think it's like a personality mix up where the personalities aren't working well on the team together? So it kind of dies.
I think it's just, I mean, every situation is different, but I think
Right.
that, early on, I used to say, like, when you're the founder of the company and your title is like founder or like founder and CEO or whatever you want to call yourself, like, you can call yourself whatever you want when you're like a 1-person or a 3-person company, but like, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So it isn't until you figure out all the parts of how your business runs that you start to figure out the gaps. And I would just say, like, start plugging holes with the most obvious gaps. If you're faking something because you need to get, because there's no one else to do it and there's no money to hire against it, once you have that hiring budget, look at all the gaps and what's like the biggest priority. Like, what are the things that, like, if you don't fill eventually, there's going to lead to problems. Start there. I'm not saying like if you're a creative, you should never hire a creative. You should. But if you're a creative and people love your creative, don't change it unless you need more
Right.
of it, and then you could supplement. But there's usually things early on that you need to kind of like plug before before it's plugging like the thing that you're like the best at doing.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, as you said, you were early in the social media as a business growth tool. Today, founders have more platforms and tools than they've ever had, as you probably know. But they still struggle to gain attention. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about using digital channels for business growth today?
That it's immediate. And that the success is going to happen because you followed some like playbook or some like you saw someone else do it. So why isn't it working for me? I think like we live in like in a world of immediacy, and people want results now, right? They're so used to like putting money into like a Facebook ad and the money comes right out, right? And if it doesn't happen, they freak out. Or, you know, like I created content and like last week my video got 30 views. How come this week I'm not getting 100? And then the week after I'm not getting 1,000? Like things take time. And building a brand takes time. And that's why, like, traditionally people talk about the marketing funnel. There's like top of funnel, which is around awareness, and then it goes to consideration and ultimately conversion. And I think right now, too much attention is focused on the mid and lower funnel, where it's all about now, versus like the idea that it takes time to actually build something special. So I think like giving up too soon and not, and basically seeing that you're not getting the right traction as a failure early on when you're actually just building the brand. So
Right.
everything takes time. You need to invest in all parts of marketing for it to work long term in a sustainable way.
Interesting. So, I'm kind of just interested. Where do you think playing the long game and kind of seeing it out and not quitting too soon? When do you think there's a fine line between waiting too long and not waiting enough time? Where do you think that fine line is?
You could usually tell after like like a quarter, like 90 days or so. Like if, you know, I mean, like, look, just using this conversation as an example, right? I mean, we're on a podcast right now talking about business, and this is, in my opinion, this is like a top of funnel tactic for me, right? Someone that's listening to this might call me in a year
Right.
or 6 months,
Right.
like whenever this comes out, right? Who knows? It could be immediately like something I say like triggers someone. They're like, oh, I got to call that guy from that show and blah, blah, blah. Or it could be something where like subconsciously something I said resonated with someone, and a year or 12 months from now, or more, it could be like, oh, I remember that person was speaking about that, and they could look me up on Google and find me and then make contact. Will you get credit for that referral? I don't think so. They might not even remember. Like they
Right.
might not remember exactly how they remembered me, but like if I do enough podcasts, right, there might be some action that happens and funnels down. So I think like this stuff is not for immediate gain. It's a long-term strategy versus like if I'm doing like Instagram ads that are basically taking my services and breaking it up, and I'm going after super targeted audience. I'll be able to see like what's the engagement rate? Are they clicking through and going to the website? From there, how many are reaching out? So it's way
Right.
more qualified. And then there's like things that
Right.
live in the middle too, right? So like
Mhm.
the way I see it is like I have to be doing top funnel, mid funnel, lower funnel all the time. And if that is something that's ongoing, I'll be able to measure the efficacy of my marketing efforts through my overall inbound that's coming into
Right.
Wondersauce. And if I'm happy with the overall inbound, it's working. If
Interesting.
so, there's a bunch of ways of looking at it, and there's also like really scientific ways of like measuring all this stuff. But um, the way I look at top of funnel, it's like you have to just kind of like put yourself out there, trust the tactics will eventually work, and build the brand.
Right. Interesting. So how long, because that's kind of the first time I've ever heard that kind of, you got to hit all the funnels, right? And there's different things for those, each piece of the funnel. How long, like when did you come up with that idea?
I didn't come up with that idea. That's just marketing. I mean, that's just
Right.
that's like, that's why billboards exist and TV spots. And I mean, traditionally you're watching a 30-second spot. Let's talk about 20 years ago, right? You weren't on your phone when you were watching TV. You were just watching a commercial, and you were hoping that, like, the brand hopes that you remember that and you buy that product one day, and you're driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour and you see something and you hope that it reinforces. And like, I still consider that to be like top of funnel, or like jersey sponsorships on like sports teams, or signage at an arena.
Right.
Those are all tactics that like build brand equity within people. And then as you start to get down the funnel, it becomes more and more measurable. And, when you get into things like social, search, those are highly measurable channels where immediately if it's working or if it's not working. And that's not to say you can't do like more mid to upper funnel tactics on social. You can do like longer form video that tells a story that isn't like immediately driving to a sale or to an action. But I think it's crucial to actually build a brand that approaches marketing holistically, because you don't want your entire business to be reliant on paid ads where you turn that off and then everything goes away.
Right. No, that's super interesting. I just had this question come to my mind. Where do you think YouTube is playing a piece in all of this, like the funnel, top of funnel, all of this stuff? I'm so interested in businesses on YouTube right now. Where do you think that is? Like, you know what I mean?
It's funny. It's across all of it, right? Like we could take this podcast and put it on YouTube, and I would say like this conversation on YouTube is more mid to top funnel, but then we can buy ads against this video, pre-roll ads or whatever ads we want to do, and that's more, definitely mid to lower funnel. Like it's all about how you go about approaching it. But like if we were to create 50 videos in the next year, all about a specific topic, and we go into it and we say like, our goal is to become known for this one topic. And we just want to create content and bring guests on and talk about this one thing. And it's all we care about. Like you're building a position within that topic. And that allows you then to basically take all of that content you create, and you could basically cut it up and edit it and turn it into ads that you then use for paid content. And so it all starts to work together. But it's funny, like I mean, even just talking about podcasts, right? Like I go on probably like 20, 30 podcasts a year. And the way I know it's working is like I'll have like clients or potential clients or colleagues reference things that I said. And I'm like, interesting. You're not liking or sharing, but you're listening. That's good enough for me. So it's funny, like how things work, right? People lurk on content. They view without actually engaging. And it's funny.
Interesting. So do you think the space has changed over the last 16 years? Like you said it a little bit, it's obviously changed in kind of the tactics, not the tactics, but the platforms and stuff like that. But overall, do you think the space has changed?
Yeah, it's changed it's changed like almost completely. Fully? Yeah, it's completely evolved. I mean, the amount of power that like the customer has is it's incredible. And we were talking about like word of mouth earlier, and like, I mean, look what like influencers and content creators, that whole world is so powerful. People want that as part of their marketing mix because it works. And you've got literally like people who have created careers because they're amazing at creating content on behalf of others, or creating content to talk about a brand or a service or a business or whatever. So it's changed completely, and I think it's gonna keep changing, especially with AI and the ease in which people will be able to create going forward.
Interesting. So do you think that'll be the biggest switch that AI makes in marketing, is just how easy it is to create stuff going forward?
I think like the production of things, like being able to put stuff out that looks professional and is potentially like polished and entertaining and whatever. I think it'll be easier to do the production, like the doing of things. But I think you still need to have a unique perspective, a good idea, and you need to have something that's ownable, or it's just going to be like AI slop. And no one wants that. You want to have a perspective. Like if I have a perspective on something and an idea, yeah, I could like talk into my phone and talk to ChatGPT for like 20 minutes. I could take that summary and throw it into like Gemini deep research and basically say like, take that idea and make sure that it's factual and poke a million holes in it and find out what's actually pure about my idea. And after 15 minutes, it spits back a deep research report and basically says, wrong, wrong, right, right, focus here. And then I take that deep research report and I basically then say, all right, like I'll throw it into like a quick deck outline and, in a matter of like running on my treadmill, talking to my phone, doing the deep research and finding that deck outline, I have like a really good presentation in like an hour that like I didn't need anyone's help doing. I did it all myself, but it's still my unique idea, my perspective. I'm just using these tools to speed things up, to fact check, to poke holes and exploit where we can be going deeper. But it's not like I'm saying, hey, AI, give me this idea. Like I need an idea for that. That's where it's like, I don't believe in that. I think that's like where you're going to get just really lazy content that isn't going to distinguish, or people aren't going to pay for it. They're not going to want to engage with it.
Right. And I think that's interesting too, kind of talking about how you can identify your market and understand like the business you're going to go into, the competitors and everything. A Gemini deep research would be perfect for that. You know what I'm saying? Poking holes kind of in your business model where you could go deeper, where other people are probably going to win over you, where you can win over other people too. I think that's super interesting.
Yeah. And I think like taking the output from AI and never taking it as fact, just going deeper, like use these tools in the most advanced way you can, because you have to assume if you're doing something and it's easy to do, then like 1,000 other people are doing it too. So like, how can you do the same things, but deeper, smarter, more original? And that's when I think like your output is going to be proprietary to you versus everyone else who could do the same thing.
Right. No, that makes sense. So kind of jumping a little bit, but we talked about this a little earlier. So you said Wondersauce grew to a team of 100 people, that's a pretty big team for kind of the agency space, right?
It's a good size. So we're like mid-size. There's definitely agencies that are like thousands of people, and there's agencies that are like 3 or 4 people. But like, we're definitely I think a really good size for this market.
Yeah, for sure. At what stage do you think a founder's biggest problems shift from how do I get more customers to how do I build a team around and systems around to handle the growth?
This type of business, it never stops. Both are always a problem. You're always working on making sure your team is best positioned to succeed and fixing problems, introducing new people, new problems, all kinds of new stuff. So you're always focused on, like, my business is people, right? Like I don't sell a product. I sell strategy and design, and I sell our ability to deliver against that. So my business is a people business. So that's always something I'm focused on. And then you're always focused on your clients and keeping them and investing in them and making sure they're happy and finding new clients and pitching and all that stuff. So those two things, unfortunately, are always top of mind.
Interesting. So kind of how does your day revolve around those two things being the most top of mind for you as kind of the founder?
It's just, that's my day. It's talking to my people about our clients, talking to my people about our people. That's just, as the CEO, I mean, sure, you have like responsibilities on like other sides operationally, but like, you can only look at spreadsheets of like your P&L and like you can only look at that for so long. Like that stuff is all a derivative of the work your people are doing. So, you need to be in front of your clients, in front of your people. You need to be figuring out how to make things run better. So, that only happens by like your relationships with your management team and your executives and your ability to be in lockstep with them.
Right. Interesting. So what are a few suggestions you would have to a founder trying to create trust around their brand and get in front of more people?
I think identifying what it is your business is great at and where you could like authentically win in a conversation is crucial. You don't want to again, like overpromise or get to a point where you're not confident in what you're saying. So I think like, as corny as it sounds, like authenticity is still like such a crucial piece of any business. You want to try and figure out which um, which areas your business will be best served in out the gate. So like, is there a maybe like an industry or a territory in the country that you might be best suited for, and start there, like start small and then grow from there. So figuring out like where to actually like, where will your talk track, where will your sales pitch like be the most successful? Um, and like what else? I mean, I think it comes down to then, your ability to just like do the work and talk about the work. So figure out how um, you can package up your successes and share that with people. So if you have an amazing relationship or amazing project out the gate that you want to talk about, can you like maybe ask your client, like, could we talk about this together? Could we like maybe like
Mm,
do a piece on LinkedIn and kind of talk about the successful partnership? And maybe like you say, in exchange, I'll give you a discount on the next project, and like
mm.
try and figure out how to like get that ball going organically.
Interesting. So it sounds like kind of from your perspective, a lot of business comes down to just kind of being creative in a way. You know what I mean? Kind of coming up with interesting ways to go about finding your way in the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. No, that's so true. I think creativity is something that, especially like now, is kind of teetering off a little. You know what I mean? People are still creative, but I feel like for me, especially, like it's easy just to go to ChatGPT and just try to type something in and then copy and paste and do all that and not be super creative with how you're thinking about your business.
Yeah, and I think that's like a it's a rut that I think um people need to be careful of, because if everyone can do all the things now because of these tools, um, you need to figure out how to stand out from the crowd. And I think of AI like I think of a guitar or a golf club or a kitchen knife. It's different in the hands of everyone. Someone who's never touched an instrument before versus someone who's been playing for 10 years versus like, Jimi Hendrix. It's going to be completely different, right? But it's the same instrument. And that's the same thing as AI. If you give it very little, you'll get something back, but it's not going to be great.
Right.
And if you give it a whole lot, it might sound and feel like you. So I think it's super critical to treat it as if you were briefing an employee, onboarding a junior employee, and you're sitting with them. You spend the time to make sure they understand the mission. They understand what makes you tick and what's original to you. And I think the results you'll get out of it are going to be much stronger.
No, that's super interesting. And it kind of gives you practice, especially as an early founder, kind of building those people around you, what you want to instill in people, the systems you need and stuff like that. That's super interesting.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right, cool. So once a founder gets their first few clients, how can they tell what actually worked and what kind of was just there and didn't really do much?
In terms of like what led to the client saying like, yes, I want to work with you.
Or yes, that, and like repeat clients after that too. So you can have more repeat clients and sell more of the stuff that you're really good at, as opposed to doing all this other stuff.
Well, I think you should know what you're really good at. I mean, it should be clear in whatever you delivered, like what you were really good at. And um it's the stuff that you don't think about when you're working. It's like the stuff that you can do in your sleep. Um and for me, it's like the stuff that I don't ever need notes or research. I can go in and talk about it and it's going to be good. Um so I think too, like as you work with clients, we always do these things called like retrospectives, where we kind of like halfway through or at the end, we ask them like, how did things go here? And they're like, well, where could we have been better? Where were we really like hit our stride? What was the best part about the partnership? We ask a bunch of questions and you get feedback, and you kind of like reset your process to, to meet
Right.
that feedback. So that's a super important tactic for improving your company, but it's also a good client retention strategy too, because
Right.
if clients are hearing that stuff and you're asking for feedback, they're like, wow, this agency really cares about not just the end product, but also like the day to day of getting there. So like those are all like super valuable things I've always done.
No, interesting. And that's something I don't hear a lot about either, is kind of putting out, maybe it's even like a Google, what is it, like a Google sheet basically, or something where they can just type in their answers.
Yeah,
You prompt
survey.
them some questions. Yeah, survey, exactly. Super simple, and you just email it to them.
Yeah, for sure. You could do that. I even like doing like a lot of times we'll do retrospectives like in like a fun setting. Like it could be like end of day and we like virtual happy hour or meet up in person, and we like, like let's like all just like decompress and unwind, like have a drink, like let's talk about it. And that's how you build rapport and trust. And that's what leads to like the next project and doing good work in the future.
No, yeah, that's super interesting. That isn't talked about a lot either, I think. Okay, cool. So, for early founders who have a few clients, what are a few things you would suggest they should focus on to ensure their business can scale?
Making sure that you've got the right checks and balances in place. Um, so like the little things, right? Making sure you have the appropriate like software and tools set up to handle whatever it is that you're doing. Like for us, like we needed obviously like a Google Suite. We need things to track the bugs on our website. We need like a GitHub repository. We need stuff to file heavy files like the Dropbox. We like make sure you have all those things and you're using them consistently. The next thing is also about like um you have a process that's repeatable. So for whatever it is you're doing, make sure you can like properly articulate your process and document that in a contract. So you can actually map out, this is how we're getting from A to Z. These are the milestones. These are like the payment achievement levels we're going to get. Like when we do this, we get paid. When we do this, we get paid. This is like the warranty on our work. So make sure like your contract actually like is the narrative of how the project is supposed to go. So when things go off the track, you could say, okay, like this is where we kind of like underestimated. Is that on us or is that on them? And if it's on you, you have to eat it and make good on it. If it's on them, you still might have to eat it, but you have to have a conversation and say, look, we only committed to 3 rounds of creative. It's okay. We're on round 5 now, but like we have to kind of rein it in after this. And if not,
Right.
no worries. Like we can like spin up a new scope, but we're gonna have to charge you for it. So I think it's just about like making sure operationally you have all those things in place.
And how long do you think for you it took you to kind of get those operations in place to where you could really scale?
I mean, thankfully we came from larger companies that had that stuff in place. So day one we were like obsessed with putting that stuff in practice. But it wasn't until like year 2 or 3 that we had like a proper functioning operation where we had all of those things set up in a way where we knew like the repeatable way of doing it. Like so and so handles this, so and so handles that. This is where we store everything. These are the people who review the contracts. These are the people who can't ever touch them. All that stuff.
Right. So for an early founder kind of that doesn't know much about that, do you have any suggestions of how they could kind of learn that scope? You know what I mean?
Well, thankfully, ChatGPT is great for it. I mean,
Yeah.
you can get samples of scopes of work and proposal samples, and it's your job to kind of like sift through it and figure out how it'll make sense for whatever it is you're trying to sell. But like I said earlier, it's never been easier to get access to information. So you don't need to have like the pre-existing, work experience that you needed back in the day. That always helps, I think. But you can definitely have access to information now faster and cheaper than ever before. But it's
For
still,
sure.
you need to basically take what you're doing and run it through
No, for sure.
that
That makes
stuff.
sense. All right, cool. I have some rapid fire questions for you to kind of end us off.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, what is one book you believe every entrepreneur should read?
Oh man, I'm not really like into business books. I never got into it. I've read a bunch of them. The one I always like, and I don't even think of this as a business book, but it's like business adjacent. Danny Meyer, Setting the Table. It's, the guy who started Shake Shack and Union Square Hospitality Group, and it's basically his method to hospitality. And it's just a really good book on dealing with people. I think
Right.
it's relevant for every business. It's called Setting the Table. It's really good.
Interesting. No, I've heard really good things about the founder of Shake Shack and how they kind of put everything together. Super interesting. What is the most underrated advantage a founder can cultivate today, in your opinion?
Being able to get a small group of people together that could produce work at a very, very high scale because of all the technology that people have at their disposal right now. So if you can rally people as a founder, I think it's a really good time to start a business. Like if you're passionate, if you've got skills and you have a vision for something and you can attract 2 to 3 people to come along for the ride that can complement your ability to deliver, it's a great time to start a business.
Interesting. So do you think, obviously it's probably the best time to start a business as a solo founder too, but do you think there is a disconnect between being a solo founder and having a small team behind you to kind of help you out?
I think like for me, I love bouncing ideas off people. And I also know my blind spots that I'm better with people around me. So I don't really want to be a one person show. I would want a small team. That's not to say like other people wouldn't be better on their
Right,
own,
right, right.
you
It
know?
depends on your strong suits though.
Yeah, and I also think it depends on like what you're trying to do, and also if you have like connections with people that see the world the same way you see it. Like if you have two people who are basically just like passionate about something and they're friends and you get along and you see a world in which you can work together, it's easier.
No, that makes sense. That's super interesting. So what's one thing you believed early in business that you no longer believe?
I don't think that there's like a specific way you need to do anything. I don't think there's like a right and a wrong answer. I think there's a million ways to get to the end results and everyone's journey is different. And I'm always like really skeptical of people that have like very, very strong points of view on like, no, you have to do it this way. I'm like, no, I don't. Do I, why? Like, I don't think I do.
Right.
So I like people that like try and, make entrepreneurship feel approachable and easier than it has to than like making it feel like it's this insurmountable thing that only a small club of people are able to get into. So for me, it's always been about um, being open to getting to the end result in a way that works for people and not being like so strict and defined that it has to be a specific way. And I feel like now after 16 years or whatever, I can tell you there's no right and wrong answer. Sure, there's like wrong ways of doing things that can lead you to like bad results, but that's probably because you don't really know what you're doing. But I think like in terms of like if you have confidence in something and you have a team that can execute, there are many ways of getting to the end state.
No, that's super interesting. What's one habit that's helped you stay sharp as a CEO?
Just always learn and listen. Um, I think that like you never know everything and you need to always be staying educated on how the world is evolving and how that evolution of the world will impact your business and your customer. So you need to, this is why I always say you need to like go into business for the right reason because you need to like what you do. Because if you like what you do, it'll be easier to keep up with the trend and the evolution of your industry and everything that impacts it right now. So if you don't really love what you do and you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you're going to be up against 10 other people who are doing it for the right reasons. And they're going to be reading and consuming content nights and weekends while you're not thinking about your business because you don't like it. And you're going to be inherently behind them because they're doing it because they just, love it.
Right. Well, that's all I have for you, John. I appreciate you for coming on. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, man.